So in this exercise, we want to look at the impact of the October effect. So what is October effect? So if you go to Investopedia, so the October effect is the perceived market anomaly. The stocks tends to decline during the month of October. So what we want to do is that we want to examine the stock price of Walmart, IBM, TD, McDonald's, adjusted close stock price. So I just randomly choose 4 stocks. That is for the illustration of the Excel step required. And then what is the adjusted stock close stock price? So according to Investopedia again, so the adjusted close price, so this reflects the value after accounting for any corporate action. It is often used when examining historical return or doing a detailed analysis of past performance. So then the idea looks like this. So let's say if I invest equally in these 4 stocks, Walmart, IBM, TD, and McDonald, how does the return of the individual stocks and of the portfolio in October compared to the return in all months? So then that helps us to decide how large is the October effect. So the learning objective that you want to learn in this exercise is the Excel command called absolute reference, Vlookup, sumproduct. And first, I'm going to download the stock and then find the monthly return. Number 3, we find the average portfolio return, and lastly, we find the return in October. So in here, I have the Walmart. So all you have to do is to go to the Yahoo Finance website, type in WMT, search. And there is Walmart stock price. And I'm interested in the historical stock price from 2009-11. So that is around maybe 2009. Okay, 2009 to today. And I'm interested in the monthly price. Apply. And then download the data file. So you can see, so sometimes Walmart give out dividend, while the adjusted stock price take all this into account when providing the stock data. So then basically I open up the file. So here we have 2009 November, we have the open stock price, the high, the low, close, and also the adjusted close for the November. And the adjusted close is the one that I'm interested. So what I'm doing is to copy the entire column. Control Shift down, copy, and then goes to my file, and I paste this. So here I simply write down 2009-11 to represent the month of 2009 November, 2009 12, 2010 01, so on and so forth. So I just have all the prices. So the way that you want to do it simply is to have 2010 01 and then 2010 01 plus 1 and then plus 1 all the way to 2010 12. And then here you just add 100 to the previous month. And then I would have the adjusted all the way to 2010. However, remember that today is October 27th, so we have not exactly hit the end of 2010 yet. So therefore, I delete that that date. Okay, so I'm going to delete the 2020-10. So next, I do the same thing for IBM. So I goes here, IBM, and I do the same exercise. So basically, this is the IBM, and then I'm interested in the same duration, and then monthly applied, and download. So I copy the IBM adjusted close, and then put it here. Next, I'm going to do the TD Bank. Historical price here, that is correct. So we have this duration, monthly applied, and it just give out dividend, and then download. And we have the TD here. And finally, we do McDonald, so we do MCD, that is McDonald, and the same duration, monthly, applied monthly, and then download. And MCD. So if you're interested to look at the trend of the stock, so all you have to do is to highlight the entire column. So Control Shift right, Control Shift down, insert perhaps a scatter plot here. So in that case, you can see roughly that is the trend, what happened. So well, it's not an ideal place because there's a gap in between here, but then you can see this go up and down. So let me delete this graph. So then the next item is to find out the return. Okay, so this is the return of Walmart, IBM, TD, and McDonald. So I mentioned earlier that we are not going to look at the October because we have not yet run to the end yet. So this number is the adjusted close in 2009-11, and this number is the adjusted close in 2009 December. So therefore, if I want to find out the monthly return in December, so that equals to, open bracket, what happened in the end of December minus what happened in the beginning of December, which equals to the end of November. Close bracket, divide by what happened at the end of November. So the idea is that the end minus the starting stock price divided by the starting stock price. So therefore, for instance, this is a minus 2% return for Walmart. And I want to do the same thing for Walmart, IBM, TD, and McDonald. So therefore, here I simply copy it down. So I scroll down to the end, and then I do Control D. So Control D, and that helps me to fill it down. So first I put the mouse. So let me do it again. So first I put the mouse here, and then I highlight. So Shift, page down, page down, page down, page down, page down, page down, and then Control D. Then that helps me fill up all the formulas. So for example, here, so everything corresponds to what we have on the column. So notice that we do not have the return on 2009-11. The reason is that we don't have the initial stock price. So our first download stock is on the adjusted close of 2009-11. So that's why we don't have that. And then we do the same to copy this formula. So first I do shift right, okay, shift right, and then I do Control R, then that fills the formula. So for example, here, if you press F2, then that becomes the return of IBM. If you do F2, this becomes the formula for TD, and that becomes the formula of McDonald. Okay, and then I do the same here. So I highlight the 4. So how I do it is to shift right, and then I do page down, page down, page down, page down, and Control D. So therefore, we always have, if I look at this number, okay, for example, so this number corresponds to IBM number 4, okay, IBM 2010-01. So that is how we get the formula. So now we get to something a little bit more interesting. So I have to zoom it up. So I want to find out my portfolio, okay, portfolio. So W1, W2, W3, W4 stands for the weight of the portfolio. So I am investing 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, and 0.25. Okay. So that means I am distributing my portfolio equally to the 5 stock, where W1 is Walmart, W2 is the investment to IBM, W3 is the investment to TD, and W4 is the investment to McDonald. So each is 25% each. In order to find out the portfolio return on 2009-12, so then what I do is equals to this number multiplied by 25% plus IBM return multiplied by 25% plus TD return multiplied by 25% plus McDonald return multiplied by 25%. So this is the formula to calculate what is my portfolio return during the month of 2009-12. So as you can see, this is weighted average, and there's a shortcut of doing this formula. So rather than doing H3 multiplied by N2 plus I3 multiplied by O2, so on and so forth, the command is called equals to sum product. So sum product would take the sum of product, and then the first vector is N2 colon Q2. N2 colon Q2, which is the portfolio, how much I'm investing in each of the 4 stocks, comma, and then the return on the first month. So in this case, that would be H3 colon K3, close bracket. So the 2 formula returns exactly the same. So what we have just done, which is H3 multiplied by N2 plus I3 multiplied by O2, so on and so forth, it returns exactly the same value as the sum product command. And then I press enter. So it always returns the same number, 0.28. And then you want to know what is the portfolio return for the next month. So then if you do Control C and paste it here, you will notice that this is 0. Why that is a 0? If you do F2, you would find out that everything shifts by 1. So that is okay for H3 to shift to H4. However, you do not want N2 to shift to N3. You want the value N2 to remain to be N2. So therefore, there is a feature in Excel called absolute reference. So absolute reference. So let me show it to you. So here, when I copy this formula, so I want H3 to K3 becomes H4 to K4. However, I want N2 to K2 remain the same. So you can put a dollar sign. So for example, what does a dollar sign mean? So let me illustrate you with a formula here. So let's say I have a number 1, I have a number 2, I have a number 3, and I have a number 4. And then let's say I want to find out what happened if 1 plus 2. So equals to this plus this. Okay? And then the next, so if I want to know what is 1 plus 4, okay, 1 plus 4. If I copy this formula and put it here, then it doesn't work because N7 becomes O7. So therefore, what I have to do is to put a dollar sign. So the dollar sign, that means if you shift this number from N6 to the next one, so it still stay with N$6. So let me give you an example. Here, then you will notice that N$6 still keeps the 6. So when you want to scroll the formula down, then if you want to keep it to the same row, then you put it N$6. So there's another place to put the dollar sign. So let's say I want to know 1 plus 3, okay? And then in this cell, I want the cell to be actually 1 plus 4. So if I shift to the right-hand side, then this N6, the first value N6 becomes O6. So N6 becomes O6. However, I want it to keep it to be N6. So therefore, all I have to do is to put a dollar sign here, $N6. So if I scroll to the right-hand side, so then it keeps $N6. So the learning lesson that we have is as follows. So when you're referring to a formula, so let's say equals to here, okay? If when you want to copy this formula to the right-hand side, and if you still want to keep the number N, so you put the dollar sign at this spot, okay? If you want to scroll to the right-hand side and still keep N, then you put the dollar sign here. If you want to scroll this down to the next column, next row, but you still want to keep the 6, then you put the dollar here, okay? And $6. And of course, if you want to keep $6, so that means whether you copy the formula down or to the right-hand side, it is always N6. Okay, so now I am done with this explanation of the absolute reference. So here, once again, I want to make sure that when I am scrolling down, so N2 to Q2 always stays the same. N2, Q2 always stays the same when I scroll down. So therefore, I have N$2 and Q$2. So in that case, when I scroll down, so the two numbers keep the same. So let me give you an example. So copy and paste. So now if you do F2, you notice that N2 is still stay at N2, but then H3 becomes H4. So we do the same for the entire portfolio. So therefore, one thing that we can do is that we move the mouse here, and there's a little box. We can just move the mouse right at this point and double click, click, and it automatically fills up everything downward, okay, all the way to the end. So now we are done with the portfolio for each month. And then I am interested to know what is the portfolio return only in October. only in October. So then in that case, so the first October come up in 2010, 10. So this is 2010, 10. So let me insert a column. So 2010, 10. So I just insert a column. So right click, insert column. So that is what I have done. And then for the next month, it is 2011, 10. All the way to 2019, 10. So an easy way to do it is equals to this number plus 100. So we get 2011, 10. And if I copy this and paste a few times, so we have 2010, 10, 2011, 10, 2012, 10, 2013, 10, all the way to 2019, 10. And what I want to put inside in this box, okay, at this box, which is the return of Walmart in the month of 2010, which is this value 42 point, well, no, 1.21%, 1.21%. So this is what I want to put it at this point. And of course, it would take a long time if I copy and paste. So therefore, there's a command called equals to Vlookup. What this Vlookup does is to look at the value 2010, 10 inside the entire table. So the table that I have is from G3, and then you highlight. So you do Shift, right, 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 and then hold on to Shift and Control Shift down. Okay, so this highlight the entire table. Let me do it again. So then this N3, which is the lookup value 2010, 10, and then the entire table that we have is G3 colon K132. We have a number 2 here. 2, that means within this table, I want it to return the second column. They return the value of the second column, which have 2010, 10. So for example, 2010, 10 is here, and I want to return the second column. So the second column is the value 1.21%. So this is the 1.21%. So if I convert it back to here, that is 1.21%. And then I want it to do the same for the entire table. So then to do the entire table, then the next I have to put, I want to copy this formula to the right-hand side and downward, right-hand side and downward. The table stays the same. So therefore, G3 and K132 stays the same. Always the top left and lower right keeps the same. So therefore, I put a $sign in both. So the easy way to put $sign in both is to press F4. And I press F4 here. That means if I scroll the formula down or to the right-hand side, it always keeps G3 and K132. So if I want to copy this formula to the right-hand side, I want it to always refer to N3. If I scroll it down, I want it to refer from N3 to N4 to N5. So that means the letter N is always fixed. So in that case, I put $N3, $N3. So when I scroll to the right-hand side, the N stays the same. However, the 3 will change. So let me give you an example. So if I do a copy here, and then if I copy everywhere, Control V, so you would notice that this one will change from N3 to is still N3. And then the table stays the same. However, there is one thing which is the number 2 Now I want to refer to the third column, the fourth column, or the fifth column. To make it dynamically, I can put the number 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this case, then rather than hard code the number 2, I can simply refer to this number, 014. So in 014, I put down the number 2. So that indicates the second column. And if I scroll to the right-hand side, I want the letter O to become P, to become Q, to becomes R. However, if I scroll down, I want the number 14 to stay at 14. So therefore, I put a dollar here. If I put a dollar here, then let's see what would happen. Okay, Control C, and then I paste everywhere. So let me give you a check. So here, let's say for Q3, so 2013-10. So now we refer to the cell N6, so which is correct. And then the table stays the same. And then Q14, that means we're referring to the fourth column. And then let's have a quick check. So 1.93. 1.93 is 2013-10 of the third stock. 2013-10, the third stock. So here is 1.93. So if I want to know what is the portfolio, so equals to same thing, the sum product, okay? The sum product of the portfolio and also the monthly return. I can either do this or use what I have in column L. So they have the same. And the command that I have would be O2. So now I want to hard code the number 2, log the number 2. So O2 colon R2. While O3 and R3 would change. So therefore I copy and then I paste. So let's say here. So that means 2013-10. So the portfolio return is 0.7%. Okay, 2013-10 is 0.7%. So now if I want to know the portfolio return, so equals to average. Oh, I want to know the October return. So the average of everything starting from 2010 to 2019. So this is the return of the first stock, which is Walmart, throughout the entire October. Okay, and then if I want to know the return of the other stock and also the portfolio, then I do Control Right. So that means 1.84%, minus 4.42% for IBM, 0.25 for TD, and 1.9 for McDonald. So this is October return. All return. So if I want to compare with all return, then equals to the average of all return. So here, starting from 2009-12, Control Shift down, Enter. So this number, it is the return of all month. And then I hold on to this and Control Right. So that means if I have to compare. So stock number 1, Walmart, October actually returned a higher value than all. However, for IBM, there's something bad happened in October, but then otherwise for stock number 3, TD Bank is so slightly lower for the October, while for the McDonald it's slightly higher for the October. So the reason this is so negative because of the IBM, there is a few months that in the October that is very, very low return. So let me have a conclusion about what we have learned in this class. So then once again, what we want to learn is the impact of the October effects compared to all year round return. So what we learn is the absolute reference. So the absolute reference is the dollar sign. So let's say $A1. If you have a command $A1, then when you scroll to the right hand side, okay, if you copy the formula to the right hand side, the letter A stays to be the same. However, if you scroll down, then the 1 becomes 2. So therefore, it would be $A2, $A3. We also learn the command called the Vlookup. So the Vlookup, it takes a few values. So here, so N4, that is the lookup value that I have, and then it presents the entire table. And lastly, this is which column. So in this case, this is column number 4. And then lastly, we also learned the sumproduct command. Sumproduct command allows us to calculate the portfolio return at a much faster fashion compared to if I have to do it like item by item.